The Fujian aircraft carrier, designated Type 003, is routinely hailed by Chinese state-controlled media as a breakthrough in naval warfare and a technological leap forward for the People's Liberation Army Navy plan. In reality, it is a high-profile symbol of inflated ambition, burdened by delays, technological shortfalls, and a lack of proven operational capability. Rather than demonstrating military dominance, Fujian exposes the fundamental weaknesses in China's defense industry and its over-reliance on propaganda to project power it does not yet possess. The Fujian was launched with immense domestic fanfare in June 2022, a moment that was used by Beijing to showcase supposed advancements in naval construction and indigenous defense technology. From the very start, however, the ship's development was beset by problems. Though the initial unveiling suggested rapid progress, the carrier remained docked and inactive for nearly 2 years. It was not until May 2024 that Fujian finally began its first sea trial. This delay was quietly omitted in domestic reporting and glossed over internationally, but it points to deeper systemic issues inside China's carrier program, including integration failures, delays in completing complex onboard systems, and fundamental challenges in bringing advanced warship technology into a cohesive and deployable platform. The biggest and most frequently discussed feature of Fujian is its electromagnetic catapult launch system, EMALS. On paper, this technology puts Fujian in a class with the most modern carrier systems in the world. But in practice, China has yet to demonstrate that it possesses the engineering experience or operational foundation to make EMALS viable in combat environments. EMALS demands high-energy power management, reliable electromagnetic control mechanisms, and precision synchronization with aircraft launch sequences. China has no previous experience with this technology at sea. The system remains experimental, and although tightly controlled state media have published glowing accounts of successful aircraft launches, there is no verified information on the durability of the catapults, failure rates, or how the system performs under high-tempo operations. A major and often overlooked flaw in Fujian's design is its propulsion system. Despite its ambitions, China opted to power Fujian using conventional gas turbine and diesel engines rather than nuclear propulsion. This decision is not just a technical limitation, it is a strategic constraint. Without nuclear power, the ship is restricted in range and requires regular refueling, limiting its endurance on long-distance missions. That severely undermines any attempt to position Fujian as a credible tool for sustained power projection. While nuclear-powered carriers can operate at high speed for extended periods across oceans, the Fujian will be dependent on an increasingly vulnerable logistics trail and limited port access, especially in any contested region beyond China's immediate sphere of control. Further complicating its operational readiness is China's lack of experience in conducting complex carrier operations. Modern carrier warfare requires seamless coordination between air-wing operations, deck crew logistics, mission planning, maintenance scheduling, and real-time command and control systems. These skills are not developed overnight. They require decades of iterative learning, thousands of training hours, and experience under pressure. China does not yet possess a carrier doctrine that has been tested in real-world conflict scenarios, and Fujian does not change that. Despite its modern hull and high-profile features, the carrier exists within a navy that is still learning the basics of coordinated carrier task force. Deployment. The aircraft intended for operations on the Fujian are also still undergoing evaluation. Reports suggest that catapult-compatible fighters have conducted limited takeoffs and landings, but these are trial runs in tightly managed conditions, not full-scale deployment exercises. China has not demonstrated the ability to launch, recover, arm, refuel, and relaunch aircraft in rapid succession under combat-like circumstances. The sortie generation rate, a critical metric for evaluating carrier effectiveness, remains unknown, unproven, and likely far below the standard set by experienced naval powers. Without a tested air wing, the Fujian is essentially a floating runway with no combat-ready air force to project. Another major concern is the heavy reliance on imitation and reverse engineering in the carrier's design. From the electromagnetic catapult concept to the overall configuration of the ship, Fujian shows clear signs of derivative thinking. China's defense industrial complex has a long history of acquiring foreign designs, sometimes through cyber espionage or intellectual property theft, and replicating them without full mastery of their inner workings. This approach leads to fragile systems that may appear functional on the surface but fail under operational stress. Fujian embodies this dilemma, a warship that looks advanced but may be unable to perform consistently or reliably in real combat environments. The broader geopolitical function of the Fujian is not to fight wars, it is to shape perceptions. Beijing has built the carrier into a centerpiece of national pride and international messaging. Each new milestone is accompanied by exaggerated claims in Chinese state media, carefully timed to support Beijing's narrative of inevitable rise. These announcements often occur in parallel with diplomatic tensions or military exercises, not because the ship is operationally relevant, but because it serves a symbolic function. Its trials are portrayed as historic breakthroughs even though they are basic steps in a still unfinished process. In effect, Fujian is more of a stage prop than a weapon. Even within the Chinese military establishment, the true value of the Fujian may be more about training and experimentation than genuine strategic utility. China is still in the early stages of developing a carrier-centric force structure. It lacks support vessels optimized for sustained carrier battle group operations. It lacks experience in amphibious integration, real-time electronic warfare coordination, anti-submarine defense around a carrier, and long-distance command and logistics. Fujian cannot operate alone, and the broader system necessary to make it effective simply does not yet exist. All of this is compounded by the reality that there has been no transparency regarding failures or internal assessments. Unlike more open military programs elsewhere, China tightly censors discussion of technical setbacks, performance gaps, or internal audits. There is no civilian oversight, no independent analysis, and no access for international observers. This creates a feedback loop of denial. Problems are hidden, underreported, or dismissed, which prevents meaningful correction. The illusion of strength replaces actual strength, and Fujian becomes a symbol of that larger dysfunction. At a time when military power is increasingly measured by flexibility, interoperability, and combat readiness, not just size or design, the Fujian represents a deeply flawed effort to skip ahead without completing the necessary steps of development. It is an inflated and premature symbol of power, shaped more by narrative than by capability. For now, it remains a ship in testing, powered by fossil fuel, untested in battle, operated by a navy still learning how to manage carrier-based operations, and surrounded by a political system more interested in appearances than performance. The Fujian is a floating expression of China's strategic insecurity. Built to impress rather than to perform, delayed by engineering realities, restricted by outdated propulsion, reliant on imitation, and marketed by propaganda, it is not a threat to modern, battle-tested navies. It is a monument to what China wants the world to believe it is, rather than what it can actually do. And unless serious, transparent, and accountable changes are made in how it develops and fields military technology, the Fujian will remain exactly what it is today, a powerful-looking shell, with very little power inside.